Welcome to the Credit Show, broadcast and podcast here on 101.5 FM, KDON. Every Saturday morning we are here from 8 to 9, and any other time that you'd like to listen to the show, if you're not able to catch us on time. The Apple Podcasts, we're there. iHeart Podcasts, we're there. Spotify, we're there. Samsung, we're there. There's a bunch of different places. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, you ought to be able to just punch in Credit Restoration of Nevada, or my name, which is Harry Jacobs, and find us, one of those places. So if you have trouble, give us a call. We'll walk you through it. Our website, easy to navigate, easy for you to get to begin with. It's CR, like Credit Restoration, crnevada.com. Videos and plans and pricing and ways to book an appointment, everything you need is right there with ease. There's a lot in the way of videos there that will give you information on credit, more detail perhaps than you would see on a normal website, and a different explanation perhaps of things, and hopefully you'll find that useful. And we've got some links to other things there on the site. And if you want to reach us by phone, you can call us. We're also text friendly. You can do one of the two things, either put a call in or just text us. If you text, just text the word credit to 702-778-2000, 702-778-2000. And when you text back and forth with our folks in the office, they're going to ask you a couple things. They'll ask you your first and last name. Obviously, we want to know who we're talking to. And we'll also want your email address, and that's so that I can actually send you an email, and we can get a letter to you, an email out to you rather, that will have a link to get your credit report. They'll also ask you if you want a link to get an appointment set up with me as well. If you'd like to set a time for us to talk, you don't have to do that. We can just reach out after we see you in the system in a couple days, or you can reach out to us and let us know you're set with Identity IQ. There's a bunch of information for you. You'll be able to get it all in the email there. Our first step with everyone, doesn't really matter what's going on with you, but our first step with everyone that reaches out is to look at those credit reports for you. Now, you're going to be provided ultimately with a comprehensive multi-page analysis of all three credit reports. That's step number one for us on anything, is just to be able to say, hey, listen, here's the story on your credit, and it's all the good, everything that's happening, good or bad, on your credit report, and you'll get it in that analysis for you. And obviously you don't have to leave your home or office. A lot of people still are in that mode of working remotely, and I can do a review with you on the phone, a Zoom type meeting, whatever works for you. But that's the way to get that going. Pick up the phone or check out the website. Again, 702-778-2000. A lot of stuff to get to on our show today and podcast today. I want to let you know that there was a program that was supposedly started in the fall. I haven't heard much about this. It was a pilot program, but there was something exciting about it from the beginning for me, because you look at people that are underbanked or off the radar, and they don't have much in the way of choices. They end up with prepaid cards or not doing anything. And I'll talk about prepaid cards in a minute, because it's those can be really scary. But this pilot program, Chase was involved in this, Wells and U.S. Bank, that factors in data from applicants' checking and savings accounts to boost their chance of getting a credit card. The approvals were supposed to be easier, and they weren't going to be credit dependent. The program is going to include data from across banks and is aimed to help those who are financially responsible but just haven't been able to build credit or apply for credit or do any of that stuff. Again, those are folks that we refer to as underbanked. It doesn't necessarily mean people that have bad credit. It means people that have wanted, for whatever reason, to just to be off the grid. And there are plenty of people. We have plenty of story. I've had plenty of folks that have come to us over the years who have said, listen, I'm off the grid. I don't think it's important, but now for whatever reason I think I need to, and yada, 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 as they say, and they end up wanting to get a credit score. And one of the options is a prepaid card, right? A lot of folks will do that. The problem with prepaid cards that you may not be aware of, if you haven't done one of these or you're considering doing one, so maybe you have done one and you found out the hard way, the fees are outrageous. I want to explain a couple things about them. They're obviously, there are the two reasons, right? You're trying to build your credit, or you're just off the radar, right? So you don't have any choices. The issue is that depending upon the card that you choose, they will literally charge you for everything that you do. Listen to some of these charges that are out there. You can be charged to check your balance at the ATM. Right? You could go before you pull money out and click the "Would you like to check your balance?" and be charged, 75 cents or whatever for that. If you pay a bill, if you load the card up and say, "Well, I'm going to go pay my power bill or my water bill or whatever I'm going to pay," they may charge you a fee for that. If you cancel the card, they're like the state of California. You move out, we're going to fine you. If you cancel the card, they may charge you a fee. If you need to replace your card, you could be charged a fee. You get my point here? When you add money to your card, they may charge you, you go into like a 7-Eleven to fill one of those green dots. Give them $500 or a few $100, whatever you give them. They may charge you a couple bucks for that privilege to use their card, so they can only charge you more fees. If your card is declined, you may be charged a fee. Isn't that crazy? At every single turn. I haven't done a lot of work in investigating these cards on an individual basis. But I would be curious to see if you go to, a website for, Green Dot or one of the big banks that does the prepaid cards, if they actually disclose those fees. There was one card, I think about this for a second. I think it was the First Progress card. That was one of those second chance type cards. It was not a prepaid, but it was a low limit credit card, for people that came out of bankruptcy or whatever. And I remember a handful of years doing a little bit of research on it and realizing that in order to get them to report on your credit, you had to pay them like, $35 a month. Now, if you didn't pay your bill and you were late, they report on you for free. That comes at no cost. But isn't that crazy? So a reporting fee, in addition to all those fees I listed, I'm sure that some of these prepaids will do that for you as well. List that you have a prepaid card. And by the way, it does benefit you. It does report on your credit, but you may need to pay an additional fee on that. And that, is something that you just, you got to live with. It's part of the part. In my studio, my dog is free to walk in and out and get a drink whenever he wants. So the big dummy is getting a drink. I apologize for what is ordinarily a quiet and peaceful studio, but the dog's got a drink. And the dog is my pal, so he comes with. So investigate these prepaid cards before you just go and hand over money because you think you need to, build your credit. The problem is that, you could put $300 on a prepaid card and end up seeing, a third of it go away in fees on a monthly basis. How's that? And by the way, it's legal. These fees are legal. They can pay you whatever they want for you to have the privilege and the right to have their card. That's the way that works. There's nothing illegal generally about any of those things. So do your research before you do anything. We're seeing lawsuits ramp up again. I was doing stories about this about a year ago, and now we're seeing it happen again. Not only do we see an uptick in calls, but we're seeing a lot of filings too on the court websites where credit card companies are going after folks that are in default, the economy being where it is. One of the companies that's doing a lot of suing of consumers is Credit One Bank, and they're coming after folks that have balances due of about $1,000 or more. So if you've got one of those Credit One cards that you let go and you owe them $1,000 or more, they come after you. It's a very good chance. Capital One always sues folks that go into default. It's part of their business model. They'll sue you, and then after the lawsuit's finalized, they'll turn around and they'll give you another card. Let's try this again, shall we? That's what they'll do. So you want to stay on top of that. If you've got one of those cards, Capital One, Credit One, and Discover are the folks that I refer to as the usual suspects, meaning the usual suspects that will sue consumers when they default on an account. So just keep your eye on that. If you've got a question about something or if you're getting sued, pick up the phone and call us. You can always make a deal, by the way. There's always a deal to be made. I think once people are served, they panic. It's a natural instinct if you don't have any knowledge or experience in what to do or how to handle the situation. But there's no need to panic. You can always pick up the phone and reach out to the law firm that's suing you and say, can we make a deal? Always do that. Anyone that calls us and needs help, I will always say, we're not doing anything that you can't. Now, we may be doing it better than you can. We may know how to negotiate. I mean, this is what we do. But you as a consumer can do these things on your own as well. It's easy to do. If you want to reach us in the office, you can call or text us. It's 702-778-2000. 702-778-2000. If you want to text us, just text the word credit. We're going to ask you 3 questions. Your first and last name and your email address. I want to send you an email so I can get a look at your credit report. We can start that process for you immediately. You can find us also anytime on the Apple Podcast app or on iHeart, Spotify, Samsung. There's an Amazon podcast app. We're at a bunch of different places. I think the bottom line is wherever you listen to podcasts, you will find us. Just put in Credit Restoration of Nevada or my name, Harry Jacobs, and you'll find us. Website is crnevada.com. That phone number again, 702-778-2000. Just text the word credit. We'll help you. We'll get you on point. I was just talking about, prepaid cards and, the benefits folks that are, off the radar or need to build their credit again. The other thing we can do, this is the one thing when you think about being off the grid or having a thin credit file. There are plenty of people that don't even do it intentionally. There are a lot of people that just have gotten by in life paying cash. I got a call last week from a guy who runs a big company in town here, and I think a name you would recognize, who doesn't have anything in his name. I was really surprised. He listens to the show, and he said, hey, confidentially, can we, talk about my situation? I said, I'm embarrassed, but I don't have any. His credit score is in the 600s. Because he didn't have anything recent on his credit, I said, this is what happens. You've done well. You get whatever you want with no debt. But the price you pay for not having anything in your name is that you're not going to have a good credit score as you are finding out. So there are a couple things we can do. In his case, we came up with a quick solution for him. But one of the easiest things, and we do this all the time for consumers, is we add a trade line to your credit report. And the trade line is a synthetic boost to your score. It's like, borrowing someone's credit. You're essentially putting someone else's credit on your credit, right? We're taking somebody who has a credit card account, 10,000, 15,000, 20, 30,000, whatever the number is. And we're taking that account and we are adding you onto it to look like you have responsibility for it and that you have all of those years of positive pay history. And by the way, and this is one of the things I've talked about over the years, I don't ever promise anybody a credit score. Unless we know where you were before you had the credit problem you're having, I can't really estimate where you're going to be. It's, this is math that goes beyond certainly my capabilities, but most people's capabilities, algorithms and other things. And there are other things that factor into it that, make up the algorithms. But when someone has no credit and we put a trade line on their credit, that's, 5 years old, 10 years old, whatever it is, they always end up with a credit score between 725 and 750. I've never seen it below that. By the way, we can do that in 20 to 30 days at the most. That's an immediate synthetic boost. The way I explain it to people, and I've done it here, is that think about it like it's training wheels for your credit, right? We're assisting you. We're putting someone else's good credit history, a credit card, on your report. And you're going to hang on to that for a significant period of time. It'll give you a score of your own. Then you could turn around and go apply for a credit card, get one on your own, and then eventually we take the wheels off, so to speak, and you've established your own credit. It takes about 6 to 8 months or something like that for your own card to season. So we don't take the trade line off right away. We allow you to reap the benefits of that if you've got to go do something else or get a couple cards. By the way, don't go hog wild with cards. Saw a credit report end of last week where the person had like 8 or 9 cards, like in the last 2 years that he had opened. And I said, what was the thought process behind that? I was curious. Like, did somebody tell you go open up as many credit cards as you can because that'll help your credit? Like, there's so much crap out there in terms of information. I'm not going to get on the tangent I was on in the last show. But, who told you to open up 8 credit cards? You don't need 8 credit cards. You probably need a couple cards, maybe, at the most. Most people, I would say, can get by with just one. No reason for more than a couple. He said, I was just trying to rebuild my credit. I read some stuff online. Of course, I read some stuff online. I read some crap from somebody who doesn't know crap about crap. Right? Redundant. But you know what I'm saying. Like, who told you to do that? If you called me, I would have told you open 1 card or 2 cards at the most. That's all. And let it do its work for you, not have 8. Crazy. Credit cards, speaking of credit cards, credit card companies are lowering limits again as the economy, is in question. We're in a precarious spot. And I think it's one of those things where you are seeing folks, and this, I don't know if it's random. I'm sure the bureaus have a way of determining who gets their limits lowered. But we're seeing it happen. And it happens when you pay a balance down. That's a little bit frightening. So, by the way, this will kill your credit score. They're doing it to protect themselves, but what they don't take into account, I mean, I'm sure they do, but what they don't really is that, let's say you had a card that had like 50% use. You had a $10,000 credit card and you had $5,000 on it. And you wanted to get that, down below 50% usage. You wanted to get it down to, 30% usage. So you paid $2,000 on it. You get that 5 down to 2, or 3 rather. You're at 30% usage. But then your credit card company decides in their infinite wisdom to drop your $10,000 credit card down to $3,000 and you're maxed out, or $4,000 and you're closer to maxed out. You get what I'm saying? They knock your limits down and that changes your revolving credit usage. So you go from 50% maybe to 70 or 80 or 90%, or worse, 100%. By the way, if you go to 100% and you're someone who had, 720, 730 credit, that'll take your score down 100 something points. It's pretty scary that can happen. But it does. It happens all the time. Especially more recently. And I suspect it's probable that we're going to see more and more of it. I want to talk about an issue that has come up again. I used to talk about this once in a while, and I wouldn't necessarily hear from folks that were having issues with it. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, in the last, 30, 45 days, I've been getting calls from folks that are in the rental database. They got an eviction, something happened, they owed an apartment complex money, and they showed up in some database, and they're getting denials, but there's nothing on their credit about it. And they're wondering how, why they were denied. There are a few separate databases that are set up for renters, if you're not aware of that. So sometimes when you go for a rental, they'll pull your credit report, but other times they'll just look at the rental databases, which shows where you lived. Your landlords have the ability to furnish information to these receptacles, so to speak. And these, these companies house all this data about you separate from your credit report, just related solely to your housing. And if you are in that database, it's very difficult to get out. We don't touch those databases really at all. But you are entitled when you apply for a rental. This is my point. When you're entitled when applying for a rental for a home or an apartment, doesn't matter what it is. If you are denied credit, and housing is considered under the credit umbrella, it's a Fair Credit Reporting Act issue. If you're denied for some reason, whether it be on your credit report or in one of these databases, because they're furnishing information about you. So if you're denied, you have this right to have a letter sent to you, the denial letter. Now, a lot of people may get that in the mail and they may look at it and throw it away and go, this is garbage. I didn't get that place anyway. I'm going to just trash this letter. But there's something important in that letter that you need to be aware of, and that is that letter will tell you how the decision was made, what factors were considered. One of them may be the credit report. The other one may be in this rental database. It'll tell you also the name of the database. But if you don't get one of those, you can sue them under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Now, you say, listen, I can't sue anybody. I can't afford an attorney. I'm trying to rent an apartment, blah, blah, blah. That's a free deal. If that's happened to you, I want to know that. I want to connect you with Jamie Cogburn and get you set up under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. If they do not send you that letter, the fee shifting provision kicks into place, meaning, we can have Jamie Cogburn go after them. You don't have to pay a thing. By the way, you are eligible for up to $1,000 in statutory damages in the event that they sue them and they win. By the way, if you didn't get one of these letters and you were denied, then you're going to win. They're going to settle. You probably won't even go to court, right? They'll make a deal with Jamie, and you'll get some money, and Jamie will get paid. You don't have to do anything, and maybe you even get taken out of the database to begin with. Who knows? There are a variety of different things that can happen, ways that this can turn out. We can look at all of them. And we'll help you sift your way through that. You want to reach us, the website is crnevada.com, crnevada.com. The phone number in our office, 702-778-2000. Just text the word credit or give us a call. Apple, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Samsung, Amazon, Podbean. There's a bunch of different places. We're on like 10 of them, I think. But you can listen to the show. I smoke a lot of cigars. I talk about that on the show. One of the guys at the cigar shop, I think I told him that I mentioned the radio show or something like that. I said, yeah, it's also on a podcast or whatever, and I gave him the information. Saw the guy like the next day. He's like, thanks for sucking me into that. He said, I found your podcast, and he said, I went back and just checked out just from Christmas to now. I felt like, man, you got into this rabbit hole. Sorry. I should have kept my mouth shut. But we're there, and if you want to go down the rabbit hole of old shows, I think there's 60-plus shows on those apps for you. Again, the office, 702-778-2000. Text the word credit. Website, crnevada.com. We always start with an assessment of your credit and an analysis. It's a big, thorough document. We'll get it to you at no cost. And we can get rolling to get your credit looked at right away, or at a minimum, get you the report on what's going on, and you can make a decision about what you want to do from there. That's up to you. I want to cover a little bit of ground in this segment. I want to talk about ID theft for a minute and staying vigilant about your accounts. I want to talk about that big Wells Fargo settlement. They had to pay almost $4 billion. And I want to spend some time on debt collection related stuff. So I'll get to everything that I can get to. I'll go as quickly as I can through this, if you will. So identity theft, kind of the first thing on that list. After the Equifax data breach that happened in, I guess, 17 or 18, I was advising all of our clients and anyone that listened to this show to fill out an extended fraud alert form from Equifax and send it in. That data breach from Equifax, by the way, it affected 167 million people. That was 2/3 of the country that was affected by that. By the way, the IRS awarded a contract to Equifax for credit monitoring after that happened. Oh, I ranted about that. How stupid of the government to take the company that had their data breached and award them with the monitoring contract for everybody. Good Lord. But that extended fraud alert that I advised people to fill out, and I still think it's a good idea. I still press our clients and anyone that I talk to, friends all the time. People always say, hey, what about ID theft? And I always say the same thing. As a matter of fact, I keep it in my phone. So if someone asks me about it, I can send them a PDF to their phone right from my phone. It's one of those things, like it's right in the top of my stuff in my books and my iPhone. Send it right to you. But once you send it to Equifax, there's a requirement that they send it to Experian and TransUnion. And this alert is something that's put into place, and that is a requirement for all folks that you apply for credit, or when credit is applied on your behalf, for all of them to call you at a number that you've put in that form. So anytime that you apply for credit, you'll get a call. I routinely talk about financing my Harley for a bunch of different reasons, not the least of which is that, I got less than 1% interest on it when I did it in 2019, I guess. But the story I tell is that, I know I have the extended fraud alert on my credit. So I knew that when I filled out the credit app, that my phone was going to ring. And sure enough, I filled it out, and within a minute and a half or something, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I picked it up, and it was Harley Davidson asking if I had applied for credit. They asked me a bunch of information from my credit report that only I would know. And then they said, okay, fair enough. And I hung up and waited for them to make their decision and, went and did the deal. But that's the protection you get when you do that. You don't need, LifeLock for that. You just have to fill out the extended fraud alert. You go download it online. You don't need me for that. Just Google up extended fraud alert for credit report. And if you send it to one, everyone will get it. But here's the issue with identity theft. And there are a couple of things that happen. We got an identity theft issue, and then we got a hacking issue. Those are two separate things. So, anywhere, 12 to 15 million people a year are victims of identity theft. Checking things beyond your credit is also very important. But when you look at the identity theft aspect of things, when someone goes and opens up an account in your name, credit card or anything else, the extended fraud alert stops that, number one. But for the purposes of this discussion, if you have this happen to you, if someone's opened up an account, it's one of the easiest things we do is fix it. People all the time are in such a panic when it happens, and I get it. It's a violation. But the reality is one of the easiest things we do is deal with identity theft. And it's not expensive to have us deal with it. A couple of steps we have to take. And, this is another one of those things where because of the law, because of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, if the credit bureaus and the creditors don't stop the reporting once you have reported the identity theft in the right way, then we can sue them. And again, you're not paying for a lawyer. Those legal fees are being paid for by the folks that you are suing. So you are the plaintiff. The defendants are the credit bureaus and the creditors. And, this is an important thing, right? It's a way that you can be violated and perhaps held responsible. I know people that have been sued on debts, things they never even opened. Right, but because they buried their head and they never looked at the credit report, they never saw it, they didn't realize until it was too late that they were getting sued. So that's one piece of that. That's the ID theft stuff. If you've got a problem with that, I want you to pick up the phone and call us, or you know someone that we can fix that quickly. Generally 30 to 45 days, we fix ID theft. Regarding being hacked, it's important to check your online accounts every day. And looking for things that are out of the ordinary is the first step there. Right? Number one, think about it like this. If you can get online and check your bank account or credit card statement or whatever, a thief can do it as well. So, I'll give you an example. I use a certain credit card for points or mileage or whatever, and one of the ways that I protect myself is I'm notified on my phone of a charge. If it comes through, it doesn't matter how much the charge is. Every time that card is used, I get a little notification that pops up on my iPhone. It says your, Amazon charge for $6.99 was approved. Your Amazon charge for $5.99 was approved. So I was starting to see these charges come through for those amounts, $5.99, $6.99. And then I went into my Amazon. I thought, I didn't buy anything for $5.99. What the hell is that? And I went into Amazon, into my orders, and I thought, I haven't ordered anything for like 2 weeks, which is rare, by the way, if I'm being honest. But I hadn't had a charge. So I went into that credit card and said, I'm disputing this charge and I'm disputing that charge. What the hell is this? Thinking to myself, maybe it's fraud of some sort. Doing what I do for a living, talking like I talk every week. And then I decided I would pick up the phone and I would call Amazon. They're like Apple. They're generally so easy to deal with. It's amazing how easy Apple is when you get to their tech support. how quickly, if you're someone that has a new device or has a warranty or whatever, it's just other companies could learn so much. But Amazon's like that too. So I called Amazon and said, hey, I've got a question. I'm seeing these charges on my card. And he's, hang on a second, let me take a look. And it was for subscriptions for the television, right? Like I watch a lot of crime TV, little hairy secret. I watch a lot of crime TV. And I think, the procedurals are so much better, the ones that are done, in Europe and the BBC stuff. If you're like I love Criminal Minds, but if you like that kind of show, there's a million of them on BritBox and the other one I can't remember, Acorn. Anyway, my little thing, but the thing about those is they're add-ons, so it's it's $5.99 a month for BritBox for me, and I didn't realize that they were showing up like that. Now I get notified of those charges when they pop up, but. I learned that when he came back to the phone call that those charges were for BritBox and Acorn. I thought, oh, okay, fair enough. So I had to call the credit card company and say, don't dispute those charges. I know what they are. And that was that. But that's what I'm saying. I'm suggesting to you is be vigilant about those things, because small charges like that, and sometimes they can be as little as $1, but small charges like that you're not aware of can be things that will lead to a hacking of your account. I don't feel stupid after telling you that story. It's just, it's part of being vigilant. And $6 or $5 isn't going to break one of those companies. I'm sure I didn't get credited on it ultimately anyway. But there are no dumb questions. If you see something on your credit report and it doesn't make sense to you, then question it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to the stuff I wanted to talk about with Wells Fargo and that settlement on today's show. They were fined, almost $4 billion for the way that they acted with auto loans and mortgage loans and bank accounts. They got nailed for fake accounts and kickbacks a few years ago, too. There's a lot to talk about, so I will unpack that for you as the first item in next week's broadcast and podcast, and then we'll do a bunch on debt collector stuff. I want to do more. There's, we get flooded with calls every week about debt-related stuff, collection-related stuff, so I'll spend a bunch of time on that. And before I walk out the door, I'll let you know again how to get a hold of us if you need us. The website is CR, like credit restoration, crnevada.com. Online, very easy to find us that way. You'll book an appointment and you'll see some videos. You can get a credit report through Identity IQ, or you can just pick up the phone and call us. 702-778-2000. Got folks in the office right now. 702-778-2000. We're going to ask you your first and last name. Going to ask an email address. I want to be able to send you an email so I can get a credit report and we can set an appointment and a time to talk. Pretty easy to do all that. So you're looking for us, save one of these shows, download, listen at another time. iHeart, Spotify, Samsung, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. Otherwise, live here on KDON every Saturday morning from 9 to 10. This is The Credit Show.